Chapter 888. I'll take this mid-level blood demon crystal. Yi Chen stored the crystal in his storage ring and said to Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King. Anika Spear King promptly nodded. You killed the Blood Demon King, so the Blood Demon crystal belongs to you. Moreover, me and the monkey also owe you a life. Anika Spear King was not someone who liked to take advantage of others. As far as he was concerned, being able to live was the greatest fortune. It was just a matter of convenience. Even without you, I would still have acted. Yi Chen didn't expect them to repay him. Obtaining a mid-level blood demon crystal was all thanks to the two. Without them, he might not have come across it. Iron Hand King had a straightforward character. Old Chang is right. We owe you a life. If you're in danger, we'll risk our lives to repay you. He, do as you wish. Yi Chen smiled. Although one might know a person's face but not their heart, these two did seem like people worth befriending. I'm Chang Chifeng, also known as Anika Spear King. This is my good friend Iron Monkey King. May I know benefactor's name? Anika Spear King put away his spear and cupped his fists. Yi Chen said, Yi Chen. Yi Chen. You're the first-ranked life and death substitute list Yi Chen, the one who defeated Giant Wolf King. Anika Spear King suddenly understood. Right. Yi Chen didn't intend to hide it. Everyone says that you have the strength to contend against a low-step king, but it seems like your battle strength has already reached mid-step king. He could naturally see that the reason Yi Chen could easily kill a mid-step blood demon king was because of his destruction sword intent. Destruction sword intent was one of the strongest sword intents and had a restraining effect on almost everything, including the undying body. Even if a sword artist with similar strength as Yi Chen were to attack the same life and death king, the result would be different. The king injured by Yi Chen would need more Jin Yuan to operate the undying body. However, elemental sword intents were extremely difficult to raise. The destruction sword intent was one of the hardest elemental sword intents to raise. Shi Feng wondered how Yi Chen had managed to raise his destruction sword intent to the 6th stage. Of course, he didn't know that Yi Chen had 3 great sword souls back then, which were the Slaughter Sword Soul, the Destruction Sword Soul, and the Immortal Sword Soul. After the Destruction Sword Soul devoured the Slaughter Sword Soul, its rank increased by leaps and bounds. Then, the Immortal Sword Soul also reached the 5th rank, resonating with the Destruction Sword Soul and improving even faster. After the Destruction Sword Spirit leveled up from the peak of the 5th step to the 6th step, the Immortal Sword Spirit also improved greatly. From the initial stage of the 5th step to the late stage of the 5th step, it had increased by 2 small levels. This was the effect of resonance. Unfortunately, resonance required the 2 sword souls to be of the same rank. For a long time to come, sword soul resonance wouldn't happen unless the Immortal Sword Soul was upgraded to the 6th rank. Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King were both solitary kings who liked to be free and unfettered. Therefore, they could become brothers of different races. Although Yi Chen didn't speak much, the two could feel Yi Chen's righteous sword Dao and elegant temperament. They couldn't help but praise him in their hearts and wanted to befriend him. Yi Chen, after leaving Bloodlight Ocean, if you have time, you can come to my Monkey Island as a guest. My supreme-grade monkey wine, you can drink as much as you want. I, Iron Monkey King, will not even frown. Iron Monkey King said. Supreme-grade monkey wine. Yi Chen found this name very familiar. Yi Chen, you can't let go of such an opportunity. Supreme-grade monkey wine, 1 cup can increase one's cultivation base by 1 month. Moreover, it's very delicious and unforgettable. Usually, when I visit, he won't dare to let me drink as much as I want. Yi Chen didn't know, but Anika Spear King was very clear that the supreme-grade monkey wine was his life. Although Anika Spear King often went to freeload, and Iron Monkey King was very generous each time, he wouldn't drink as much as he wanted. After all, the materials needed to make this wine were too precious, and the brewing process was also very difficult. One jar would take Iron Monkey King at least a year to brew. Alright, definitely. I'm just afraid that you'll close your door and refuse guests. Yi Chen's face was full of smiles. A cup of monkey wine could increase one's cultivation base by 1 month. No matter what, he had to be a guest. How could that be? It's fine even if I drink it all. Iron Monkey King glared at him. Yi Chen and Anika Spear King both laughed. Oh right, Yi Chen, Iron Monkey King and I are preparing to leave. What about you? The Anika Spear King and the Iron Monkey King worked together to obtain some low-tier blood demon crystals. Originally, they wanted to continue and obtain more low-tier blood demon crystals, but the appearance of a mid-tier blood demon king had greatly exhausted them. I'll leave in a few days. With the destruction sword intent, Yi Chen was destined to obtain blood demon crystals more easily than others. That's right. You have the destruction sword intent. As long as you don't encounter a peak mid-level or high-level blood demon king, you'll be fine. However, it's best not to stay for too long. Your destruction sword intent can restrain blood demon kings, but it won't be as effective against hetero blood demon kings. Anika Spear King reminded. Yi Chen will be cautious. Yi Chen naturally knew that Bloodlight Ocean wasn't a safe place. However, he had yet to venture too deep into it. The closer he got to the core region, the greater the danger. Correspondingly, the chances of blood crystal flowers appearing would also increase. Then we'll take our leave first. If you want to find us in the future, come to Monkey Island or Cloud Locking Island. Definitely. After Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King left, Yi Chen didn't stay either. He prepared to find a place to refine the mid-level blood demon crystal. After searching for a long time, Yi Chen still couldn't find a suitable place. Thus, he returned to the cave where he recovered Jin Yuan. Blocking the cave, Yi Chen sat cross-legged at the center of the cave. Buzz! The storage ring flickered, and the mid-level blood demon crystal was taken out. Compared to the low-level blood demon crystal, the luster of the mid-level blood demon crystal was even more magnificent. If the low-level blood demon crystal was an extremely precious crystal, then the mid-level blood demon crystal was a blood-red diamond. Yi Chen could sense the extremely pure life energy contained within the mid-level blood demon crystal. It was precisely this life energy that could upgrade one's spirit body. At the later stages of the spirit body, it would also reflect one's life level. Refining blood demon crystal was different from refining other things. One had to cut open a wound and let the crystal come into contact with one's blood before refining it. Creak. His palm automatically split open, and Yi Chen pressed the mid-level blood demon crystal inside. So numb. The refining of the mid-level blood demon crystal had already begun. Yi Chen felt as if ants were crawling all over his flesh and bones, numb and tingling. Refining the low-level blood demon crystal doesn't have much of a feeling, but the mid-level blood demon crystal is indeed different. Yi Chen wasn't startled, but rather delighted. Gradually, the numbness turned into pain, which then turned into colic. It was as if his body was covered in sulfuric acid that was eroding his flesh and bones. Sweat gushed out of his body like a spring, and veins bulged on Yi Chen's forehead. Creak. A black substance seeped through his pores and covered Yi Chen's body, emitting a faint fishy smell. However, this situation only lasted for a moment. In the next moment, a surging temperature spread out, incinerating all the black substance, including Yi Chen's clothes. In the end, Yi Chen was only left with the bronze armor. Multitasking, Yi Chen took off the bronze armor. It became naked. In his palm, the mid-level blood demon crystal had been mostly refined, and only the size of a fingernail remained. Refine all of it. Gritting his teeth, the blood in his palm wrapped around the fingernail-sized mid-grade blood demon crystal and dragged it in. Whoosh! Whoosh! After an unknown amount of time, an extremely powerful life fluctuation spread out from Yi Chen's body. Inside the cave, there were electric currents flashing. Although they weren't bright, they were real. At the same time, a special magnetic field was formed around Yi Chen. This was a life magnetic field formed when a life was strong to a certain extent. 2 hours. 2 hours. 12 hours. 1 day. The mid-level blood demon crystal had been completely refined, but the breakthrough was not over yet. Yi Chen was pushing his life force to advance to the fifth-order spirit body. Another day had passed. The life magnetic field emitted by Yi Chen was even stronger, comparable to a fifth-order spirit body. However, it wasn't as stable as a fifth-order spirit body, and the field was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. The next day. Bang! His powerful life magnetic field swept up all the tiny substances in the cave, and the flickering electric currents continued to swim around. Right then, he was like a very small star. His body contained a magnetic field, and anyone who approached him would be affected by it. Only powerful existences with the same rank 5 spirit body would be able to remain unscathed. Fifth-order spirit body, done. Yi Chen suddenly opened his eyes, which flickered like swords. There was a huge difference between a fifth-order spirit body and a fourth-order spirit body. At the fifth order, one's life magnetic field could already be seen, which was equivalent to a life form evolving to a higher level. A fourth-order spirit body is the standard of a life and death king, while a fifth-order spirit body is the average. Now that I've reached this level, the gap is shrinking. As his strength increased, Yi Chen's enemies also became higher-level existences. Any improvement was precious. Fifth-order spirit body held great significance for Yi Chen. First of all, his body's defense had become higher. Coupled with the undying body, Poison Fire King and the rest would find it hard to deal with him. If he ran into someone with a spirit consciousness body, they wouldn't be able to injure him too severely. He would only need 10% of his Jin Yuan to circulate the undying body to recover. In other words, a fifth-order spirit body made it harder for Yi Chen to get injured, and it also allowed him to conserve Jin Yuan. His battle prowess had increased by a whole level. Apart from this, a fifth-order spirit body possessed an extremely powerful recovery ability. It was like a star that could slowly recover after being destroyed. This was the power brought about by a powerful life magnetic field. Creak. Yi Chen lightly clenched his fist, causing the cavern to tremble. His entire body seemed like a volcano. After cultivating the undying body to the limb rebirth realm, the dragon power has already strengthened the body. However, the combination of Jin Yuan and cells increases the explosive power by dozens of times. Cultivating Jin Yuan and cultivating the body would separate in the later stages. When cultivating Jin Yuan, the cells would combine with Jin Yuan, increasing the body's explosive power and making it not weak in close combat. Of course, compared to cultivating the body, it was far inferior. When cultivating the body, the strength was born from the cells, and the explosive power was more than 10 times that of the former. In short, body-refining kings were close combat monsters. Chapter 889. My spirit body has already broken through to the 5th step, almost at the early 5th step. If I get another blood crystal flower, my spirit body will at most reach the peak of the mid-5th step. Should I still take the risk to look for it? In the outskirts of Bloodlight Ocean, the chances of a blood crystal flower appearing was very small, and mid-level blood demon kings were not easy to run into. Moreover, the core of Bloodlight Ocean was too dangerous. Blood demon kings no longer appeared alone, but in groups. Even if Yi Chen had the destruction sword intent, he would still have to flee if he met a group of low-level blood demon kings. If he was unlucky, he would encounter a group of mid-level blood demon kings or 2 or 3 high-level blood demon kings. In normal circumstances, even peak kings would not be willing to venture into the core of Bloodlight Ocean. After all, not everyone was like Yi Chen, who had the destruction intent that could restrain blood demons. One-on-one, they would not be able to kill a blood demon king of the same level. Moreover, according to the legends, there was a blood demon emperor in the core of Bloodlight Ocean, an existence that even titled monarchs feared. Forget it, the outskirts of Bloodlight Ocean are very big, and there is still some distance to the core. I'll go a bit deeper and try my luck. Yi Chen would not enter the core, but he did not want to give up. In the endless void, a dot of sword light pierced through the air and headed toward the Blood Sky continent. A little guy actually upgraded a sword artist's art to a heaven-grade art. Moreover, the special ability he obtained is the sword domain, which is even rarer than the sword body. That's good too. If his sword Dao talent is monstrous, then he doesn't need the supreme grade sword. But if his reputation is undeserved, then don't blame me. Copper Sword King was not an idiot. He knew who he could offend and who he couldn't. If Yi Chen had great potential and had the hope of becoming a peak-level king or even a titled monarch, then it would be best not to offend him. Although he, Copper Sword King, also had a heaven-grade cultivation technique with the special ability of Bronze Sword Body, he could only dominate mid-level kings. Even if he obtained a supreme-grade artifact sword, he could only contend against high-level kings. Although a supreme-grade artifact sword would allow him to explore more dangerous forbidden zones and obtain better treasures to increase his strength, if his comprehension was not extraordinary, his achievements would be limited. After all, treasures could not increase one's profounds. In this aspect, one would have to rely on oneself. In fact, all in all, Copper Sword King's desire for a supreme-grade artifact sword was the manifestation of a sword artist's monstrous talent. However, Copper Sword King longed for a supreme-grade artifact sword too much, so he wanted to witness it with his own eyes. The speed of the sword light was extremely fast, and even the power of space was sliced apart. In terms of speed, even high-level kings might not be a match for Copper Sword King. At this moment, Yi Chen already had the intention to retreat. The closer he got to the core of Bloodlight Ocean, the greater the danger he would encounter. At this moment, Yi Chen encountered a danger. The danger didn't come from a Blood Devil King, but a hetero Blood Devil King. What appeared in front of him was a golden lion that was 3 to 4 meters long. This golden lion was no different from Shi Xiaobao's main body, just a dozen times smaller. The golden lion was shrouded in a blood-red aura, and its lantern-sized eyes were also blood-red. There was no radiance in them, only bloodthirstiness and brutality. Golden Lion King. Yi Chen slowly spat out a word. The golden lion in front of him was clearly a demonic beast king of the Golden Lion clan. It was probably invaded by the chaotic will of Bloodlight Ocean and transformed into a hetero Blood Devil King. Roar! Raising its head and roaring, the golden lion pounced at Yi Chen. Seal! The space distorted and condensed into a purple mirror. Pine! The Golden Lion King's physical body was extremely powerful. It was also a fifth-step spirit body, but Yi Chen's fifth-step spirit body was clearly weaker than the Golden Lion King's. The purple mirror shattered into thousands of pieces, leaving only a few hundred shallow wounds on the Golden Lion King's body. Before the blood could flow out, it had already been absorbed. Opening its bloody mouth, the Golden Lion King spat out a dazzling golden radiance at Yi Chen. Too powerful. Yi Chen could still put up a fight against an ordinary mid-step hetero Blood Devil King, but Yi Chen didn't think he was an opponent for the Golden Lion King. The Sky Scorpio sword fiercely slashed out. An incomparably condensed sword energy, along with frightening death ripples, slashed at the golden radiance. Immediately, a dazzling golden radiance exploded, engulfing the heaven and earth. Yi Chen was blown away, spurting out a large amount of blood. Run! Borrowing the shockwave, Yi Chen quickly fled. Releasing his sword domain, his speed became even faster. With a few flickers, Yi Chen disappeared into the horizon. The Golden Lion King was obstructed by the shockwave and couldn't catch up. 10,000 li away, Yi Chen slowed down his speed. My strength has already reached a limit. Unless my profound makes a breakthrough, it's impossible for my strength to increase greatly. After leaving Bloodlight Ocean, I can start comprehending Life Tao. Life Tao was much more difficult to comprehend than Death Tao. In most cases, one would comprehend Death Tao first, and then Life Tao. After all, increasing one's strength first was more important. Without stopping, Yi Chen arrived at the exit of Bloodlight Ocean. Glancing back, Yi Chen smiled bitterly. This trip was for the Blood Crystal Flower. Who would have thought that by a freak combination of factors, my destruction sword intent would first break through to the 6th step, expelling the variant star fire poison. Then, I didn't get the Blood Crystal Flower, but a mid-step Blood Demon Crystal, raising my spirit body to the 5th step. The world is unpredictable. Who knows what will happen in the future? Coming out with Yi Chen was a life and death king. However, this life and death king was in a sorry state. His body was as thin as a match, and his aura was extremely weak. Clearly, he had suffered a serious injury. Even the undying body couldn't fully recover from it. Truly strange. Seeing that Yi Chen was only at the peak of the 3rd layer, yet he was able to come out safely, this life and death king was stunned. Leaving Bloodlight Ocean, Yi Chen turned into a sword light and shot toward Eternal Sky Sect. I'm almost at Eternal Sky Sect. I heard that Eternal Sky Sect has a titled monarch protecting it. Therefore, it hasn't been destroyed for hundreds of years. I wonder if it's true. In the void millions of li away from Eternal Sky Sect, Copper Sword King hesitated. I'm only going to witness that kid's potential. I'm not looking for trouble. I should be fine. Copper Sword King inwardly said. Just as he was about to continue on his way, Copper Sword King's soul power suddenly sensed a figure. The figure was heading in the same direction as him. It's him. A joyous expression appeared on Copper Sword King's face. As far as he was concerned, not going to Eternal Sky Sect was the best outcome. Turning around, Copper Sword King flew for a few breaths before waving his hand. The spatial barrier split open, and his entire body shot out like a sword light. Far in the distance, a figure was flying over. What's the matter, senior? Yi Chen stopped and sized up Copper Sword King. You're Yi Chen. Copper Sword King was also sizing up Yi Chen. If senior is not mistaken, then it's me. Yi Chen nodded. I heard you have a supreme grade sword. I wonder if you can take it out and let me have a look. Copper Sword King went straight to the point, not beating around the bush. His eyes suddenly narrowed. Yi Chen said, Senior, are you here for Yi Chen's sword? Right. Then Senior will be disappointed. Yi Chen will not hand over the sword. Copper Sword King's sword chi was exceptionally powerful, even several times stronger than that masked man. Yi Chen was absolutely not his opponent. However, since the other party wanted to snatch his Sky Scorpio sword, he couldn't let him have his way. Therefore, he could only ask for Yuan Emperor's image first. With the strength of Yuan Emperor's image, dealing with Copper Sword King shouldn't require much Jin Yuan. I didn't ask you to hand it over. Do you think I'll let you do that with my strength? Copper Sword King slightly shook his head and continued, how about this, I'll suppress my cultivation base to about the same level as you. As long as you can take 3 of my sword strikes, I'll immediately turn around and leave. If you can't, I'll have to borrow your supreme grade sword for 3 months. N. Copper Sword King's words left Yi Chen somewhat astonished. He had thought that the other party had come to snatch his sword, but it turned out to be to borrow it. Although he might not be trustworthy, in Yi Chen's opinion, it was somewhat believable. With the other party's strength, there was no need for him to deceive him. If he really wanted to snatch the sword, he could just snatch it by force. My apologies, but Junior can't take 3 moves from Senior. Suppressing one's cultivation base was only suppressing the quantity of Jin Yuan. In terms of purity, it was still much higher than Yi Chen's. Yi Chen wasn't afraid of this. He also had the destruction sword intent. However, powerful life and death kings all had powerful profound martial skills. For example, the masked man's thunder and fire profound martial skills were frighteningly powerful. He believed that Copper Sword King wouldn't be weak. Hehe, you're quite meticulous. Copper Sword King smiled, these 3 sword strikes of mine are ordinary moves. If you feel that it's unfair, you can change your mind. Is Senior serious? This time, Yi Chen was even more astonished. Of course. Alright, then Junior will take 3 sword strikes from Senior. Yi Chen agreed. You're indeed courageous. I hope your strength is as formidable as your courage. As he spoke, Copper Sword King's gaze turned extremely sharp. His entire being seemed like a peerless sword. First sword. Copper Sword King's figure suddenly moved as he pushed his speed to the limit. Any faster and he would have disappeared into the void. Chi. Copper Sword King's sword slashed at Yi Chen. The cyan sword light seemed ordinary, but it carried a soul-shaking aura. It was as if this sword could even destroy one's soul. As Copper Sword King said, he had already suppressed his cultivation base. The Zhen Yuan contained in this sword strike was more or less the same as Yi Chen's. Only, the Zhen Yuan was extremely pure and couldn't be suppressed. Leaving behind a pitch-black sword scar in the air, it was as swift as a swan. Sword Domain. Facing Copper Sword King's ordinary sword strike, Yi Chen didn't dare to be negligent. He had a feeling that this sword strike was extraordinary. It contained the mysteries of Sword Dao, somewhat similar to Battle King's platinum sword body. Sure enough, it can't change the trajectory of his sword by a large margin. The appearance of Sword Domain had only slightly deviated Copper Sword King's sword light. If left unchecked, Yi Chen would definitely be hit. Clang! Unsheathing the evil vanquishing sword, Yi Chen's sword collided with Copper Sword King's longsword. Blazing sparks flew everywhere. Copper Sword King retreated. Good, your sword domain has actually reached the peak of the first layer. You're not far from the second layer. Copper Sword King applauded. Chapter 890. Dang dang dang, Yi Chen retreated dozens of steps. His hand holding the evil vanquishing sword was numb, and a trace of blood flowed down. Copper Sword King's sword was extremely powerful, and the sword energy was condensed to an extreme degree. It was as if the power contained in this sword was a whole entity, and didn't need to be condensed or dispersed. On the other hand, no matter how condensed Yi Chen's sword energy was, in the end, a level lower. Sword Yuan. Yi Chen finally understood why Copper Sword King's sword was somewhat similar to Battle King's platinum sword body. It turned out that Copper Sword King also had a sword body, and the Zhen Yuan cultivated by a sword body was also called Sword Yuan. Sword Yuan was like Sword Light, except that other sword artists could only activate Sword Light, while sword bodies could store Sword Light and then display it. Once it was condensed, one would be able to imagine how powerful it would be. In terms of foundation, sword bodies were a level higher. Of course, when a sword body encountered sword domain, it would still be slightly restrained. If not for sword domain, Yi Chen wouldn't have been pushed back dozens of steps. He would have definitely vomited blood. I thought it was only the first layer of sword domain. I didn't expect it to be the peak of the first layer. Although the gap between the first layer and the peak of the first layer didn't seem that big, Copper Sword King was very clear that if it was only the first layer, it wouldn't have been able to distort his sword's trajectory and deflect it. Take my second sword. Copper Sword King's figure leaped up and the long sword in his hand trembled. Hundreds of sword flowers enveloped Yi Chen's body. Each flower carried a spiraling power, and with the help of Sword Yuan, its might was astonishing. Yi Chen's eyes shone brightly as he pushed sword domain to the limit, trying his best to distort the original trajectory of the sword flowers. At the same time, the evil vanquishing sword slashed out hundreds of times. Ordinary sword skills naturally couldn't block these spiraling sword flowers. Therefore, Yi Qin used vibration sword arts. Although Yi Qin hadn't studied vibration sword arts since the life and death secret realm closed, his body had long since become familiar with the power of vibration. Adding on the fact that his spirit body had already broken through to the fifth step, the vibration power was like a breeze to Yi Qin. Ding ding dang dang. A rain of light exploded around Yi Qin. The collision of the vibrating force and the spiraling force caused the trajectory of the light rain to be strange and soul-stirring. Vibration power. Copper Sword King squinted his eyes. In his memory, the demonic blade sect's demonic blade arts walked the path of vibration power. In the hands of the demonic blade king, the might of the demonic blade arts was even more terrifying. With one slash, a king of the same realm would definitely be injured, or their weapon would be sent flying. Unless one's strength was a level higher than him, they wouldn't be his opponent. Amazing. Take my third strike. This strike is also an ordinary sword technique. However, unlike ordinary sword techniques, you'll definitely not be able to distort the trajectory of this strike unless you've attained level 2 sword domain. Being unable to deal with Yi Qin with 2 sword moves, Copper Sword King felt a little embarrassed. With the third sword move, he had to suppress Yi Qin no matter what. Borrowing the sword or not was secondary. Alright, I also have a sword move. Let's see if Senior can break it. Copper Sword King was a life and death king, and his attack speed far surpassed any sword artist under life and death realm. Adding the fact that he was using an ordinary sword move, his speed was even faster. This left Yi Qin with no time to use congealing water and bewitching mirror shattering. He could only use the inferior vibrating sword arts. Fortunately, ever since he created the vibrating sword arts, he had gained some insights. Based on Lan Sanmei's demonic chop, he had created a killer move. This killer move's preparation time was very short, and it was all about speed. Spiraling Flying Flower Sword. Spiraling Flying Flower Sword was originally a profound sword move. However, Copper Sword King had said that he wouldn't use a killer move, so he temporarily changed it into an ordinary sword move. It only contained a unique sword energy and no profound. The moment the sword appeared, the space twisted, and numerous spiraling cracks appeared in the space. With Yi Qin's sword rule at the peak of the first layer of sword domain, it was indeed hard for him to twist the trajectory, unless the opponent was in existence on the same level as him. The evil shattering sword had long since been replaced by the Sky Scorpio sword. Holding the sword with both hands, Yi Qin held his breath and slashed out the moment Copper Sword King's sword arrived. Sky Cutting Sword. Ong! A dazzling golden light dyed the space, and the vibrating power instantly reached a peak that Yi Qin couldn't reach under normal circumstances. Ka la la. The complete spiraling sword energy and vibrating sword energy collided, and the space shattered like glass. The shattered arc-shaped sword chi and intermittent vibrating sword chi shot toward the two. By relying on sword domain, Yi Qin was unscathed and easily distorted the arc-shaped sword chi. Meanwhile, Copper Sword King's protective sword Yuan was also ridiculously powerful, easily deflecting the vibrating sword chi. On the third move, both sides were evenly matched. Of course, Yi Qin had the advantage of the Sky Scorpio sword. This kid is truly frightening. Retracting his sword and retreating, Copper Sword King gravely sized up Yi Qin. The spiraling flying flower sword was actually between an ordinary sword move and an ultimate move. He originally thought that this move would be enough to defeat Yi Qin, but he didn't expect the opponent to also have such a frightening move. The vibrating power it contained reached a peak in a split second, making his palm somewhat numb. What a frightening spiraling sword energy. Yi Qin also admired Copper Sword King quite a bit. Although each sword flower of Copper Sword King's second sword also contained a spiraling power, it wasn't much. It walked the path of winning through quantity. However, the spiraling power of the third sword was more than 10 times stronger. It even faintly produced a centripetal force, allowing the body to scatter but not the spirit. If not for the Sky Scorpio sword, this move would have disintegrated the muscles of his right arm. In the void, an extremely secretive soul power seeped out. How is this possible? He really didn't die. A spatial power curled around his body, causing the masked man to cry out in surprise. His Thunder Fire 4 Sky was his most powerful ace attack. The 4 layers of palm power stacked together was something that even he did not dare to take head-on. Although the stacking would inevitably cause some damage, it was still not something a kid at the peak of the third level of life and death challenge could handle. This made him very confused and angry. Lord is right. This kid's threat is too great. He can't be allowed to enter life and death realm. Otherwise, he'll be an existence comparable to Battle King and Xianhou. No, he might be even more frightening. Quietly retracting his soul power, the masked man prepared to leave. Who's there? Copper Sword King roared and thrust his sword. The spiraling sword energy pierced through the spatial barrier, containing wind profound and metal profound. It was more than 10 times stronger than the third sword, and instantly arrived before the masked man. Puff! The masked man's head was pierced, and his soul power scattered. Consciousness projection. Copper Sword King's eyes squinted. He didn't care about killing the masked man in one strike. Ordinary mid-step kings rarely could block his sword. This was the killing power of his sword Yuan. Chapter 891. In the end, Yi Chen's soul power couldn't compare to Copper Sword King's, so he asked, "Senior, who is it?" "It's a consciousness projection with a mask on its face." Copper Sword King smiled bitterly in his heart. His consciousness projection already had the strength of a mid-step king, so his real body was most likely a high-step king. Moreover, he could only be considered a tyrant among mid-step kings, barely able to contend against ordinary high-step kings. The masked man. An image flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Could he be here to see if I'm dead or not? The masked man had no enmity with him, but he wanted him dead. It was obvious that he was specifically targeting him. He could feel an invisible net gradually closing in on him. It was indescribably dangerous. "Kid, you've offended quite a lot of people." Copper Sword King turned his head with a gloomy expression. He was sure that the masked man wasn't targeting him. Since it wasn't targeting him, it was obviously targeting Yi Chen. He didn't expect to offend a high-step king for no reason. It would be strange if he wasn't gloomy. "Actually, I don't know who he is." How could Yi Chen know that he was being targeted by otherworldly experts? Moreover, he didn't know that Battle King and Xianhou were killed by these people. Forget it. Perhaps I shouldn't have come. Copper Sword King shook his head, dispelling the distracting thoughts, and continued, "I said that if you can take 3 of my swords, I won't make things difficult for you. Now that I've done that, I'll keep my word." "Many thanks, Senior." For Yi Chen, it was best not to use the image of Yuan Emperor. This was his life-saving trump card. Dispelling the thought of supreme-grade swords, Copper Sword King became interested in Yi Chen. "As far as I know, in the entire Elysium, there are only 5 people with sword domain, and 4 of them are in my Sky Sword continent. Only you aren't from there." TSK. "Do you know what the highest level of sword domain is?" "No." Yi Chen shook his head. 3 levels. Copper Sword King said, "The sword domain has a total of 9 layers, but the sword domain is much harder to improve than the spirit body and will. With every layer, the laws of the sword will become several times stronger. If your sword domain reaches the peak of the 2nd layer, then even if I go all out, I might not be able to defeat you easily. At the 3rd layer, as long as your true Yuan doesn't run out, then I won't be able to do anything to you. Of course, your strength is still low, so I can't do anything to you, and you can't defeat me either." Copper Sword King possessed Sword Yuan, so his offense and defense were several times stronger than other kings of the same rank. He could contend against ordinary high-level kings for a while. Of course. If Yi Chen had to choose between two opponents, and one was an ordinary high-level king and the other was Copper Sword King, Yi Chen would rather choose an ordinary high-level king. At the very least, the opponent's defense wouldn't be too excessive. On the other hand, if he chose Copper Sword King, he might not be able to injure him even after exhausting his Jin Yuan, let alone defeat him. Sky Sword Continent gathers the sword chi of the world, and it even has a strange space sword world. If you have the opportunity, you can go there. It'll be of great help to your sword Dao. Of course, you'd better raise your cultivation base to life and death realm. I can restrain my thoughts of seizing supreme grade swords, but others might not be able to. Dragon Kings don't have long lifespans, and this is something everyone knows. Since he had given up on the supreme grade sword, Copper Sword King decided to befriend Yi Chen. Alright, I'll be leaving first. Copper Sword King didn't want to stay any longer. His figure flickered and disappeared into the void. Sword artists are mostly resolute, and Copper Sword King is no exception. Muttering to himself, Yi Chen turned around and flew in the direction of Eternal Sky Sect. The second appearance of the masked man added a trace of urgency to Yi Chen. With his current strength, he didn't have the confidence to safely escape from the assassination of a high-step king. More importantly, he didn't know if he had the time to summon Yuan Emperor's image or not. This was because high-step kings either didn't make a move, or if they did, it would be a fatal blow. Comprehending the life Tao is the most pressing matter. On Eternal Sky Sect's Elder Peak, Yi Chen let out a long sigh. Suddenly, Yi Chen raised his head. Your senses are quite sharp. Spatial ripples appeared in the secret chamber, and a white-haired old man walked out. Senior Dragon King. A trace of astonishment flickered on Yi Chen's face as he stepped forward and saluted sincerely. Dragon King had a benevolent smile on his face as he said, "Every time I see you, I can see you advancing by leaps and bounds. This is truly great. I didn't expect to see two powerful juniors grow so quickly before I die. Senior Dragon King, since you can surpass the limit of lifespan, you should be able to extend your lifespan, right? There are indeed methods to extend lifespan, but now is not the time. Moreover, it's practically a dead end." Dragon King's expression turned grave. Dead end? Yi Chen had a bad premonition. It's useless to tell you this now. You'll know in the future. I came this time to understand your progress, and also to bid farewell. Senior wants to challenge that dead end. With Yi Chen's intelligence, he immediately guessed. Everyone dies one day. Being able to die a few years later than others is already heaven's kindness. Dragon King didn't want to linger on this topic, so he said, "I can see that you've already comprehended Death Tao. Now, as long as you comprehend Life Tao and verify them, you'll be able to enter Life and Death realm. However, Life Tao is the most difficult to comprehend." Back then, Yen Girl comprehended Death Tao at the age of 31, and Life Tao at the age of 34. She only entered Life and Death realm after a year. I have no doubts about your comprehension, but I must warn you that you mustn't be anxious while comprehending Life Tao. The more anxious you are, the further away you will be from Life Tao. You must wholeheartedly immerse yourself in comprehending Life Tao. Sense the existence of nature, sense the vitality of myriad things, sense the ordinary things that you normally don't pay attention to, and comprehend the cruelty and darkness of life. Therefore, the reason why many geniuses fail to enter Life and Death realm is because they walk too far on this path. Senior Dragon King, I believe that I will comprehend Life Tao very soon. Yi Chen was different from others. He had already experienced true life and death once. His arrival was, in fact, obtaining life from death. Of course, it was impossible for him to comprehend Life Tao immediately. What he comprehended was only his own life, and not the lives of myriad things. However, with this as a breakthrough, his starting point was higher than others. That's for the best. Dragon King didn't doubt that Yi Chen's words were meant to reassure him. After dozens of years of observation, both he and Xianhe were very clear about Yi Chen's temperament. To be honest, Yi Chen was very frightening. He had never seen such a frightening youngster before. Many people knew their own weaknesses, but they couldn't avoid them. On the other hand, Yi Chen could always reflect on himself and improve himself. Sometimes, Dragon King even felt that he and Yi Chen weren't people of the same world. It was a very strange feeling. "Senior, can't you wait for me to enter life and death realm before attempting that path of death?" Yi Chen didn't wish for Dragon King to die. There were certainly many secrets in this world that he didn't know. "It's too late. If I don't do it now, I'm afraid I won't have the chance." Dragon King shook his head with a bitter smile. "After I leave, I'll leave that girl Su Jing to you." "Of course. This is my first time coming to Eternal Sky Sect." Little Li was also a sword Dao genius back in the day. Unfortunately, he died early and couldn't bring out his full potential. Otherworldly people have always been the cancer of my Elysium. Since ancient times, countless people have died in their hands. Right, I wonder who is guarding Eternal Sky Sect. Perhaps I know him. As he spoke, Dragon King suddenly released his soul power, spreading it out in all directions. What a hidden soul power. I can only sense a trace of fluctuation. If Dragon King wasn't right in front of him, Yi Chen might not have been able to sense the fluctuation of Dragon King's soul power. The reason he could sense it now was because he was mentally prepared. Dragon King's brows creased as he suddenly grabbed Yi Chen's shoulder. His figure flashed and disappeared into the void. The next moment, the space reversed, and Yi Chen and Dragon King appeared in the middle of the mountain range behind Eternal Sky Sect. Yi Chen felt a little dizzy, but he quickly steadied his mind. "Senior, what's wrong? There's something strange. There's an extremely mysterious formation below. However, this formation seems to have been slightly damaged, causing its aura to leak out. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to discover it." Formation. Yi Chen recalled that he had fought with Poison Fire King and Blood Hand King here. Could that battle have caused the geographical environment to change, exposing this formation? Of course, his soul power wasn't as strong as Dragon King's, so he didn't discover it. "Come, let's go down." Dragon King's body glowed with an earthy yellow radiance, like an earth escape technique. He brought Yi Chen down quickly. Along the way, Yi Chen almost couldn't feel the existence of the space. The Dragon King stopped when he reached a depth of 30 to 40,000 meters. Whine. He stretched out his palm, and the earthy yellow radiance spread out. The soil in front of Dragon King was automatically pushed aside, forming a huge underground space. In the middle of the underground space, there was an earth ball. The diameter of the earth ball was about 30 meters, perfectly round without a trace of imperfection. A weak formation ripple was transmitted from it. It's the Fire King's spirit permeating formation. The so-called spirit permeating formation was to prevent soul power from detecting it. When soul power scanned over, it would directly ignore this area, treating it as ordinary soil. Who is Fire King? Dragon King said, "When I was young, I had met Fire King a few times. However, he disappeared afterward. If the protector of Eternal Sky Sect is him, then he must have been crowned as an emperor. It wouldn't be wrong to call him Fire Emperor. However, I remember that he was about 70 or 80 years older than me. Fire Emperor is dead." Yi Chen looked at the earth ball. "Dead or not, we'll know once we break this spirit permeating formation." Dragon King closed his eyes, and his soul power seeped into the earth ball, carefully sensing the pattern of the spirit permeating formation. After a long time, Dragon King opened his eyes. How brilliant! Fortunately, this formation is damaged. It seems that the energy to maintain it is insufficient. Otherwise, I might not be able to break it. Hua la la. Dragon King's soul power shook, and the earth ball collapsed, revealing a purple light ball. In the middle of the light ball, there was a figure sitting cross-legged with his head lowered. Chapter 892. It's indeed Fire King, no, it's Fire Emperor. The Dragon King sighed and said, for hundreds of years, I ignored the affairs of the world and hid my tracks, all so that I could devote myself wholeheartedly to cultivation and improve my combat power. Unfortunately, in the end, it was all for naught. To think that Senior Fire Emperor is already dead. Yi Chen had always been curious about the monarch protecting Eternal Sky Sect. Today, he saw him, but it was just a dead man. If this news were to spread out, Eternal Sky Sect would definitely be on the verge of collapse and might be destroyed in an instant. After all, the only reason Eternal Sky Sect could survive was because of Fire Emperor's deterrence to the outside world. Senior Dragon King, what level has Senior Fire Emperor reached? Yi Chen asked. The Dragon King said, back then, when I met him, he was already the strongest person under titled monarchs. With his talent and perception that far surpassed mine, ordinary titled monarchs would not be his opponent. He is already very close to being able to leave his mark on the Emperor Scar Steel. Moreover, I heard that in order to preserve the Eternal Sky Sect, the Fire Emperor had once revealed a trump card. It was this trump card that made the entire Blood Sky continent not dare to touch the Eternal Sky Sect. Not even titled monarchs. Revealing a supreme move to intimidate the entire Blood Sky continent. Right, Senior Battle King had once met an old man who could condense a sun-like fireball. The fireball contained the profound of fire, water, and earth. Moreover, the three profound were already at perfection. Even if they were not completely fused, it was still very terrifying and could easily destroy a large star. Could that old man be Fire Emperor? Yi Chen had some ideas. Come, let's go in. Fire Emperor should have left some information. Dragon King stepped into the purple light ball, and Yi Chen followed behind. The purple light ball was like nothing, and the two walked in without any obstruction. In their line of sight, Fire Emperor's head was lowered, his face was pale, and his eyes were closed. There was not a trace of vitality in his body. However, the passage of time did not leave any marks on his body. His flesh was still full, without any signs of loosening. The aura he emitted even made it hard for Yi Chen to breathe. The energy has not dissipated, and his body still contains an extremely powerful might. Do not resist or counterattack, or his body will explode, destroying anyone who approaches. Dragon King reminded Yi Chen. Yes. Yi Chen nodded, not daring to do anything inappropriate. In front of the Fire Emperor were 3 jade slips. The Dragon King picked up the first jade slip and said softly, "It's a voice recording jade slip." As he poured his true essence into it, a vigorous and slightly aged voice sounded out. Do the heavens really want to destroy my Elysium and let those otherworldly people do whatever they want? When will my Elysium truly belong to us, free from the otherworldly oppression, and free to come and go as we please? Unfortunately, I can't wait for that day. Fated One, I have nothing good to give you. In the storage ring, there are many supreme-grade materials and millions of supreme-grade spirit stones. The 2 jade slips contain my 2 top-grade profound martial skills, Sunlight Sky, and Merciless Water and Fire. Comprehend them well. I really hope that you can break through the otherworldly oppression and become the first person in my Elysium since ancient times. One day, you can avenge the blood feud of my Elysium. Perhaps this is an extravagant hope, but hope is better than despair. That's all. I'm tired. The voice gradually weakened. Yi Chen and the Dragon King remained silent for a long time. The Fire Emperor's voice was filled with unwillingness, both for himself and for the common people of Elysium. This kind of deep unwillingness made his tone extremely infectious. Yi Chen and the Dragon King felt as if they were there, stifling a mouthful of anger in their hearts. 6-star battle strength. Hee, even 6-star battle strength can't break through. I'm afraid I won't be able to escape either. But, my time is up, and I have no choice but to go. The Dragon King said in a low voice. Yi Chen asked again, Senior Dragon King, what star battle strength do you have? From the Fire Emperor's words, it wasn't hard for Yi Chen to guess that the so-called star battle strength was used to evaluate the strength of life and death kings. I have 5-star battle strength. At present, apart from a few hidden old monsters, the highest is 5-star battle strength, such as Su King, Air Emperor, and me. Of course, 5-star battle strength also varies. Su King and the rest have already reached the high level of 5-star battle strength, and I'm a bit lacking. Little Yen Girl has also almost reached this level. Su King and Air Emperor have 5-star battle strength. Yi Chen's brows creased. In that case, low-level kings should have 1-star battle strength, mid-level kings should have 2-star battle strength, high-level kings should have 3-star battle strength, peak kings should have 4-star battle strength, and titled emperors should have 5-star battle strength. Senior Dragon King was the strongest among peak kings, having broken through 4-star battle strength and reached 5-star battle strength. Senior Su Anho was also the same. If Senior Yuan Emperor didn't die, he should be stronger than Senior Fire Emperor, at least 7-star battle strength. Yi Chen guessed inwardly. Dragon King's next words confirmed Yi Chen's conjecture. To leave a mark on the Emperor's scar steel, 7-star battle strength is the bottom line. However, this kind of person hasn't appeared in several tens of thousands of years. Even 6-star battle strength is rare. I've lived for more than 1,000 years, and as far as I know, there are only 2 or 3 6-star battle strength. Fire Emperor is one, and Sky Marshal Region's undying old ancestor is another. As for the third, I'm not too sure. However, Elysium cannot be without titled monarchs. Therefore, the standard for titled monarchs has dropped to 5-star battle strength. Because I rarely reveal my true strength, I haven't been titled monarch. Of course, this is meaningless to me. Dragon King continued to explain. Senior Dragon King, Senior Fire Emperor said to charge through the path of death. Yi Chen couldn't help but be curious. Nodding, Dragon King said, yes. Since ancient times, have many people tried to charge through this path of death? Seeing Yi Chen asking so many questions, Dragon King knew that if he didn't reveal a bit, it would only make Yi Chen have more distracting thoughts. To charge through the path of death, one has to have at least 5-star battle strength. However, this was the ancient era. After that, the path of death became a true path of death. You should know some of the records of the 4 extreme great emperor. He once charged through the path of death. Unfortunately, he failed and even suffered from irrecoverable injuries. Even the 4 extreme great emperor failed. Yi Chen couldn't help sucking in a deep breath. The 4 extreme great emperor was a titled monarch who left his mark on the emperor's scar steel. His battle strength was at least at the 7-star rank. If even he failed, how could the Dragon King succeed? Don't worry, the path of death has fluctuations. Moreover, if one's luck is extremely good, even 5-star battle strength can pass through. Over 1,000 years ago, a titled monarch with 5-star battle strength passed through the path of death. Of course, it's also normal if one fails. In any case, even if I don't try, I'll still die. There's no hope, so I might as well try my luck. Yi Chen faintly nodded. He knew that the Dragon King had already made up his mind. If he didn't attempt it now, his chances would grow smaller and smaller. Before death, one's body would be in a very poor state. Although the Dragon King was a life and death king, and his condition couldn't be that bad, he would still be affected. Only in the final radiance of the setting sun would he be able to erupt with his peak battle strength. Unfortunately, that would be the time of his death. I'll leave Fire Emperor's storage ring and top-grade profound martial skills for you. Although you cultivate sword Dao and research sword moves, you can use Fire Emperor's profound martial skills to perfect your own sword arts. If your sword arts can reach Fire Emperor's level, you'll have peak 5-star battle strength at the very least. The Dragon King waved his hand, and the storage ring on Fire Emperor's finger fell off, along with the 2 jade strips on the ground, into Yi Chen's hand. Yi Chen didn't decline. He knew that these things were useless to the Dragon King. In a moment, I'll rearrange this place and conceal the aura of this place. Remember, don't tell anyone about Fire Emperor's death, not even Eternal Sky Sex people. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Before you reach life and death realm, you can only be careful. Yi Chen understands. Yi Chen naturally wouldn't reveal the news of Fire Emperor's death. The two walked out of the purple light sphere. The Dragon King formed a seal with both hands, and an astonishing earthen yellow radiance covered the purple light sphere. Soon, the purple light sphere was once again covered by the earthen sphere. Not a single trace of aura leaked out. Even when Yi Chen used his soul power to probe, he couldn't find anything inside. His soul power directly passed through. Go, let's go. After arranging everything, the Dragon King grabbed Yi Chen and teleported to the secret chamber where Yi Chen was previously staying. Letting out a breath, the Dragon King instructed one last time, once the news of my death spreads, Dragon God's Celestial Palace will be in grave danger. Little girl Yan's strength is weak, and she won't be able to protect Dragon God's Celestial Palace. However, I've already arranged the true elites of Dragon God's Celestial Palace into a secret realm. Little girl Su Jing is also there. When you hear the news of Dragon God's Celestial Palace's destruction, don't be impulsive. As long as you're alive, everything can be restarted. Yi Chen didn't speak. He could only feel his blood boiling and burning. This is the Dragon Pearl for finding secret realms. It's better than yours. As for how to enter secret realms, there are detailed records inside. Spend some time, and you should be able to learn it. The Dragon King took out a golden dragon pearl from his storage ring and handed it over to Yi Chen. Yi Chen could sense the aura of a giant dragon contained within the golden dragon ball, which was very similar to the aura emitted by Su Jing. The moment he held the golden dragon ball in his hand, he seemed to have a connection with some place. However, this connection was very vague, and it was hard for him to find it with his current cultivation. I'm leaving. I'll leave everything to you. The Dragon King raised his head, his gaze piercing through the secret chamber and landing on the boundless starry sky. Senior Dragon King, take care. Yi Chen cupped his fists and bowed. Buzz. The next moment, the Dragon King's body disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the boundless starry sky. A white light flickered as the Dragon King flew toward the depths of the starry sky. Raising his head and straightening his body, Yi Chen took a few deep breaths. My strength is still too weak. Senior Dragon King doesn't even tell me some secrets, fearing that I'll take risks and affect my comprehension of life Tao. Chapter 893. The 2 jade slips left behind by the Fire Emperor contained top-grade profound martial arts. Even the Void Emperor and Space Emperor might not be able to research such a level of martial arts, because it was too difficult to fuse several kinds of profound together. Even if they could be fused, they would need to create a profound enough martial arts framework. Both were indispensable. Yi Chen didn't plan to learn these 2 peak profound martial skills at the moment. It wasn't that he didn't fancy them, nor did he think he couldn't learn them. Rather, he didn't want to be distracted. The most important thing for him at the moment was to comprehend the Life Tao, then verify the Death Tao and Life Tao, and enter Life and Death Realm. The moment he entered Life and Death Realm, he would be able to enter the state of being one with the heavens at all times. Comprehending anything would be several times faster, perhaps even 10 times faster. However, when I enter Life and Death Realm, I'll need peak 3-star battle strength. Otherwise, I'll be lacking. Peak 3-star battle strength was equivalent to peak high-step kings, second only to peak kings. At present, Yi Chen was more or less an ordinary mid-step king, far from this level. A slightly stronger high-step king could kill him in one move, and a powerful high-step king could easily kill him from hundreds or even thousands of li away, not to mention peak kings. It could be said that the further one went, the greater the disparity between levels would become. This was because it was no longer a disparity in cultivation base, but a disparity in battle strength. 1 was 1, and 2 was 2. Even Yi Chen couldn't defeat a 3-star battle strength expert with 2-star battle strength. If he could, then Yi Chen wouldn't just be a 2-star battle strength expert, but a 3-star battle strength expert. Gao Ziyuan, this sword is for you. In Supreme Elder's palace, Yi Chen took out the 100-era sword. With a shake of his hand, the sword stabbed into the ground beside Gao Ziyuan, overflowing with sword qi. Supreme Elder. Gao Ziyuan revealed a hesitant expression. He could see that this sword contained an extremely powerful immortal power, even stronger than his immortal sword intent. As far as he was concerned, this sword was no weaker than a pseudo-supreme grade sword. You've already become a half-step king. How can you not have a good sword? It had been half a year since Yi Chen had arrived at the school. During this time, because of Yi Chen, the school's development was not bad. The number of disciples had doubled. However, there were only a few who could be considered as the core of the school. Gao Ziyuan did not disappoint, and had successfully become a half-step king half a month ago. A genius half-step king was different from an ordinary half-step king, but their weapons had to be up to par. Yi Chen did have a semi-supreme grade sword in his storage ring, but it was not as good as the 100-era sword. The immortal sword intent contained within the 100-era sword was extremely compatible with Gao Ziyuan. In his hands, the 100-era sword was just an ordinary pseudo-supreme grade sword. Thank you, Grand Elder. Gao Ziyuan bowed in gratitude. Alright, I'll be leaving Eternal Sky Sect for a period of time. It might be 1 year, or 2 years. During this period, Eternal Sky Sect will be relying on you to protect it. With you and Elder Lu, Eternal Sky Sect should not be bullied. Elder Lu's dementia was actually caused by a blood clot in his head. As time passed and Yi Chen gave him precious pellets, he had gradually recovered. With Elder Lu and Gao Ziyuan, unless someone wanted to invade Eternal Sky Sect, there should be no problem. Don't worry, Great Elder. Ziyuan will protect Eternal Sky Sect. Even when Eternal Sky Sect was in a difficult situation, Gao Ziyuan could persevere, let alone now. On the second day, Yi Chen left Eternal Sky Sect. To comprehend the life Tao, one had to walk more and see more. Rumble. Above the surging ocean, black clouds covered the sky. A powerful whirlwind swept up the seawater, forming water pillars that connected the sky and the earth. Silver lightning snakes shot through the sky. Occasionally, some of them would entangle together, forming a thick lightning dragon. The frightening electricity even numbed the air. Under the black clouds, a silhouette was flying. Nature also has its own unique life. When it's not angry, it's calm and tranquil. But once it's angry, the winds and clouds change, filling the sky with killing intent. Lightning snakes struck Yi Chen's body from time to time, dispersing. The water pillars that connected the sky and the earth wanted to pull Yi Chen over. In such a vile environment, even an astral-reaching expert would have to be careful. The storms of the endless ocean couldn't be compared to the storms of the continent. Of course, for Yi Chen, it was nothing more than a tickle. The range of the storm was limited. After flying for several tens of thousands of li, Yi Chen left the storm zone. The sky turned sunny again. Compared to the black storm zone behind him, it was like heaven and hell. A rainbow hung in the sky. Yi Chen faintly seemed to have comprehended something, but it also seemed to be nothing. My comprehension is still not enough. Yi Chen continued his journey. That giant whale most likely can't beat the sea snake. On the endless ocean, battles were taking place all the time. Territorial disputes between sea beasts could be seen everywhere. In Yi Chen's vision, a 9th-grade giant whale and a 9th-grade sea snake were fighting. The billows they raised were not inferior to a small storm. The seawater surged for 1,000 meters. The sky was sometimes clear, and sometimes dark clouds covered the sky. Sometimes, gales blew chaotically, and sometimes, lightning snakes struck. In the chaotic whirlpool, the island-like giant whale and the several thousand meters long sea snake were entangled. If an ordinary person saw this scene, their legs would probably tremble in fear. In the end, the sea snake bit the giant whale, and its poison entered the giant whale's body through its teeth. The giant whale gradually stopped struggling, its vitality completely gone. Nature is cruel. It's natural selection, survival of the fittest. Although Yi Chen had known about this before, he had rarely calmed down and tried to understand the meaning behind it. It was like there were some things that everyone could understand and say, but those who could truly understand the deeper meaning behind it were few and far between. Nature had a cruel side, but it also had a gentle side. Along the way, Yi Chen passed by a lot of islands. The islands were covered in lush greenery, and people lived peacefully. Farmers farmed, fishermen went out to sea to catch fish, and women took care of their children, doing housework. Yi Chen saw sincere smiles on their faces. Sometimes, Yi Chen would live on the islands for a while, farming, fishing, playing with children, chatting with some elders, listening to their stories when they were young, as well as their understanding of life. Gradually, stubble started to grow on Yi Chen's face, which was getting thicker and thicker. However, his handsome appearance was enough to make a lot of girls fall head over heels for him. The pirates are here. The pirates are here. The fisherman ran down from the boat and shouted mournfully. Yi Chen looked over. On the ocean, dozens of fully armed battleships were approaching. The flags of these battleships all had white skulls as the background. There were martial artists on the island as well, but the most powerful ones were only at the clasping Yuan realm, and there were only a few of them. Most of them were at the mortal realm. This was just an ordinary island. Kill all the men, and bring back the pretty girls. On the leading battleship, a one-eyed man laughed arrogantly. The pirates behind him also laughed, their gazes vicious. This kind of ordinary life island was completely worthless to them. They could only vent their desires on some beautiful women and then throw them into the sea to feed the fish. This wasn't the first time they had done such a thing. Young man, I know you're a powerful martial artist, but there are too many of them. You'd better run. The old man who often chatted with Yi Chen urged Yi Chen. Don't worry, old man. It's just some pirates. A cold light flickered in Yi Chen's eyes. Although he was comprehending the Tao of life, which had both a beautiful and dark side, he was comprehending life and death, not ignoring it. Leaping up, Yi Chen pulled out the evil vanquishing sword and slashed at the ocean. The frightening sword light was thousands of meters long, cutting a deep ravine in the ocean. Even the bottom of the ocean could be seen as it smashed forward with an irresistible force. Ah! It's a top expert. Run! Before the pirates even got close to the island, they were already scared out of their wits, desperately turning their ships around. Swoosh! All the battleships were cut open, and the pirates within the sword light's attack range were directly turned into ashes. The surrounding pirates were also affected by the sword wind and turned into blood mist. One sword, and they were all dead. Rumble. The seawater poured in, filling up the cut open by the sword light. On the island, everyone was dumbfounded. So he's a top expert. I thought he was just an ordinary wandering martial artist. Some of the girls were sad. This kind of Yi Chen, they were not good enough for him. The pirates were destroyed, but Yi Chen understood that he could help for a while, but not forever. To survive in this world, he had to be powerful enough. There was a young genius on the island with a clasping yuan cultivation base. Seeing how powerful Yi Chen was, he sincerely came to take him as his master. Yi Chen taught him for a few days and left him some resources before leaving. After he left, the young man might die at the hands of the pirates, or he might become a world-shaking expert. Who knew the future? Yi Chen had only given him a hope of becoming an expert. In the boundless starry sky, there was a place that was dark and unfathomable. Bang! 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 In the depths of the chaos, light flickered, and a frightening aura filled the starry sky. Ah! In the next moment, a loud cry was heard, and a blood mist was struck out of the chaos, sprinkling on a small star nearby. The star trembled slightly, and blood flowed out. Humph, a mere 5-star battle strength dares to barge into this place. Truly reckless. A voice came from the depths of the chaos. Hee, 1,000 years ago, a 5-star battle strength expert sneaked out while we weren't paying attention. Perhaps they thought they could get out with good luck. That kind of thing only happens once in 10,000 times. With us guarding this place, not a single person from Elysium will be able to get out. Of course. But, next time someone comes, let me take action. I haven't taken action in a long time, and the time for my rotation is almost here. Chapter 894. Rest assured, there will be plenty of opportunities. Once a great battle breaks out, someone will definitely escape. At that time, I won't fight with you. Hee, these words of yours are enough. Unfortunately, this is not our world. If we force our way in, we'll suffer a fundamental injury. Otherwise, we could also go in and slaughter and plunder the resources without restraint. With our strength, who could stop us? No rush. Countless years have passed, and Elysium is getting weaker and weaker. We're not far from success. Let's hope that day comes soon. The voices grew weaker and weaker until there was nothing left. On the nearby stars, blood was flowing everywhere. Some places had deep holes in them. It was hard to imagine how the blood could still have such power even after crossing such a long distance. Gotcha. A mound of earth suddenly bulged up on the surface of the star. The mound split open, and a figure drilled out. The dead end is indeed a dead end. Dragon King is also dead. 3,000 years of cultivation turned into blood splattering everywhere. The people of this world are simply too powerful. Unless those titled monarchs of my Elysium who can leave their marks on the Emperor Scar Steel come back to life, there's no way of crossing the dead end. The blood doesn't have the slightest bit of vitality. Impossible. A blood sphere floated in the figure's hand. The blood sphere didn't have the slightest trace of vitality. How was it blood? It was more like a red liquid. Dragon King was the one with the highest cultivation base among the human kings of Elysium. He had naturally reached the realm of blood rebirth. Although the difference in strength was too great, blood rebirth would be useless. The opponent could completely extinguish any vitality in the blood. But no matter what, it would at least leave behind some vitality. Creasing his brows, the figure pondered hard. On the boundless ocean, the number of pirates was innumerable. The smaller pirate groups only had a few hundred people, and the highest cultivation base was only at astral reaching realm. The bigger pirate groups had more than 10,000 people, some even reaching several tens of thousands. They had Sea of Soul realm experts and even Sea of Soul masters overseeing them. Wherever they went, countless people would be slaughtered, and countless islands would become barren. Facing pirates, Yi Chen only had one word for them, and that was to kill. Along the way, Yi Chen didn't know how many people he had killed. Perhaps it was hundreds of thousands, perhaps it was over 1 million. Life was cruel, and now he was the embodiment of cruelty against pirates. Death is unchanging, like a pool of stagnant water. Life is ever-changing. It can blossom like fireworks, rumble like cannon fire, sprout like grass, or be cruel like purgatory. Life is an unknown. No one knows where it will lead or where it will lead. Because it is ever-changing, I don't have to limit myself to passive comprehension. I want to actively approach the origin of life. If a life and death king were here, they would be astonished by Yi Chen's comprehension of life Tao. If death was static, then life was moving. Static things would never change, but moving things would always change. It was precisely because of the existence of life that there were so many changes in the world. There were so many civilizations. Life could be said to be the true essence of a complete world. All sorts of signs indicated that Yi Chen wasn't far from comprehending life Tao, and he didn't spend much time on it. On a small island covered in pure white snow, Yi Chen stopped slaughtering and returned to his original state. Life was not just a beautiful bloom. There would always be a time when a thin stream would flow for a long time. Alone on the small island, Yi Chen's heart was strangely tranquil, like an ancient well without any ripples. His heart was like a clear mirror, and everything that had happened before flashed through his heart like a clear mirror. On the lakeside, Yi Chen built a small wooden hut. At this moment, the snow had melted, welcoming spring. The withered grass by the lakeside began to sprout, growing a little bit every day. Every day, there would be a change. Winter has passed, and all living things have recovered. A light flickered in Yi Chen's heart as if he had grasped something. Day after day passed, and the snow-covered island turned into a green world, full of vitality. Life bloomed here, not changing because of the changes in the outside world. So that's how it is. No matter how many changes life has, its ultimate goal is to prove its existence. Be it slaughter, cruelty, darkness, gentleness, or beauty, it's all just a process. It's only a path leading to the origin of life. Life is the true essence of existence. Bang! As if a thunderbolt had flashed through his mind, Yi Chen suddenly felt enlightened. He took a deep breath, and the air was incomparably fragrant. At this moment, Yi Chen had finally comprehended life Tao. As soon as he comprehended life Tao, the life and death aura emanating from Yi Chen's body also underwent a huge change. Originally, the death aura was suppressing the life aura, but now, the two auras were on par. However, compared to ordinary peak third-layer life and death chamber experts, Yi Chen's life and death aura was more than twice as powerful. All that was left was a kick to the door of life and death realm. Since Yi Chen's life Tao had just been formed, the life and death aura uncontrollably leaked out. Wherever it touched, flowers bloomed and withered, and plants that flourished to the extreme gradually withered. It was quite similar to the scene in life and death's secret realm, but not as mysterious and profound. Break. Without Jin Yuan or profound, Yi Chen lightly pressed his palm on a boulder by the lakeside. Puff! The boulder turned into dust, and dust fluttered in the air. After comprehending death Tao and life Tao, even if Yi Chen's realm didn't increase, his battle strength had increased by a level. That palm just now contained both the corrosion of death aura and the eruption of life aura. Life Tao has been formed. Next, I'll have to verify death Tao and life Tao to enter life and death realm. Life Tao was hard to comprehend, but the verification of death Tao and life Tao was a bit easier. Of course, this required time and couldn't be accomplished in one go. While Yi Chen was comprehending the life Tao, countless people were searching for his traces. All of them were clad in blood-red robes, and their expressions were grim. Lord, I can't find him here. Lord, I can't find his trace. Lord, someone here has seen him, but he has left, heading north. The masked man was holding a conch, from which a voice could be heard from time to time. Damn it! I must find him as soon as possible. The masked man's body was solid, and his aura was powerful. It was clearly his main body, and not a consciousness projection. After learning that Yi Chen had left Eternal Sky Sect and Blood Sky Continent, the masked man personally chased after him, accompanied by 4 life and death kings. Each of them had more than 1,000 blood-robed guards under their command. These blood-robed guards were all candidates for the Blood Sea's 50 pirates. Of course, some of them were still in the nurturing stage, and the resources they consumed could even bring down a 5th-grade sect. Moreover, these people were destined not to live for long. Each of them was overdrafting their life force to stimulate their potential. Chapter 895. Death and life are only one cycle. I've known this for a long time. How to find the common point between them and link them together should be the secret to breaking through to life and death realm. Now that he had completed both Death Dao and Life Dao, what Yi Chen needed to do was to link them together and form a whole. At the lakeside, Yi Chen's left hand was filled with Death Qi while his right hand blossomed with Life Qi. As his two hands approached each other, the Death Qi and Life Qi cancelled each other out, giving birth to a vague ripple. This is the ripple. After thousands of confirmations, Yi Chen finally sensed this ripple. This ripple had neither life nor death, connecting life and death. Not far from the wooden house, a huge red wolf was lying on its stomach. Its head was filled with eyes, but most of them were closed. The ones that weren't were only opened by a sliver. It was this sliver that allowed its dark green eyes to leak out. The surroundings became grotesque because of this gaze. Butterflies flew upside down, grass grew into towering trees, and ants turned into demons. The illusory and the real were sewn together because of its gaze. Compared to a few years ago, the current dream-eating wolf was even more powerful. Its body was also emitting a faint life and death qi, and its red fur was flickering with a deep killing intent. These days, it had been observing how Yi Chen verified life and death, and it had benefited a lot. Master is too powerful. If I follow him, I'm afraid I'll become a beast king within 10 years, or even shorter. When it was subdued by Yi Chen, the dream-eating wolf was already a 10th-grade demonic beast. After swallowing a wind-fire pellet, the dream-eating wolf had been in a state of hibernation. Later on, Yi Chen gave it a frighteningly high-quality supreme-grade demonic power crystal, allowing it to become a half-step beast king without any obstructions. Moreover, the energy consumed by the demonic power crystal was almost negligible. Right now, watching Yi Chen verify life and death, the dream-eating wolf had also stepped into the first layer of life and death chamber. Its battle power and dreamscape creation ability had increased by more than 10 folds. Even ordinary life and death kings would be somewhat affected. Why aren't you verifying it? Dream-eating wolf raised his head slightly and looked at Yi Chen in surprise. Slowly letting out a breath, Yi Chen said calmly, "Someone is approaching. He's an enemy, not a friend." Roar. Hearing this, the dream-eating wolf stood up, raised its head, and growled. The fur on its body stood straight, and its body seemed to have swelled up. It was extremely ferocious. In this world, there were countless secret techniques. Some focused on offense, some focused on defense, and some were purely auxiliary secret techniques. After being brainwashed by otherworldly experts, the blood-robed guards were all extremely loyal. Therefore, they were bestowed with a probing secret technique similar to the heavenly vision and earthly hearing great art. This secret technique didn't belong to Elysium, but was called the soul-searching great art. The soul-searching great art could restrain soul power and spread it out in a fan shape. Moreover, its range was 100 times greater than normal. An ordinary Sea of Soul realm expert's range was 100 li, but the soul-searching great art could allow one's range to reach 10,000 li. Of course, it was only in a fan shape and couldn't cover all directions. However, it was already very frightening. Apart from this, the soul-searching great art had another extremely frightening aspect, which was that it could lock onto living things. There was no need to probe inch by inch, and it could save a lot of soul power. Relying on the soul-searching great art, a group of blood-robed guards discovered Yi Chen from 9,000 li away. "Lord, the target has been discovered. It's the same as the portrait." A blood-robed guard who seemed to be a captain raised a small conch and spoke into it. What? Found him? But, he's very far from here. Blood Blade King, you're the closest. You go first. Remember, even if you can't defeat him, you have to tie him down. Give me half an hour. Once I'm there, he won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. The masked man was overjoyed. Among the 30 blood-robed guards, there would be a captain equipped with a locating stone. Relying on the sensing of the stone, the masked man could easily determine the distance between the two and immediately order Blood Blade King, who was the closest, to intercept Yi Chen. Don't worry, he can't escape. My blade thirsts for the blood of peerless geniuses. Blood Blade King was a blood-haired middle-aged man. He licked his lips and grinned. Puff. Space ruptured as Blood Blade King fled in the direction of the captain. Soon, Blood Blade King arrived at his destination. Where is he? Blood Blade King opened his mouth and asked. The captain pointed ahead and said, he's on that island. Not good, he's leaving. Leave? Where do you think he's going? A distance of 9,000 li was meaningless to Blood Blade King. Space ruptured, and when he reappeared, he was already on the island. He slashed at Yi Chen, who was about to fly away. Rumble. Blood-colored blade light enveloped the heaven and earth. The island brimming with vitality was cut in two, and seawater surged. He can be considered a well-known figure among mid-step kings. Dodging the blood-colored blade light, Yi Chen floated in the air. According to the might of Blood Blade King's strike, he judged that Blood Blade King's strength was twice that of the masked man's consciousness projection. If it were before, he would definitely not be his opponent. But now, that might not be the case. Unsheathing the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen retaliated. This strike was too fast, and Blood Blade King only had time to raise his blade to block. Dang! A loud sound rang out as Blood Blade King's entire body was blown away. Blood splattered from his right arm that was holding the blade. His muscles disintegrated, and terrifying cracks appeared on his bones. What? The might of this strike? Blood Blade King was astonished. As far as he knew, Yi Chen's battle strength was equivalent to an ordinary mid-step king. Since when did he become so powerful? It was 2 or 3 times stronger. While I was comprehending the Tao of life, although I didn't try to comprehend the profoundness, my water and space profoundness naturally improved a little. 90% completed water and metal profoundness perfectly balanced each other, and their power increased more than twofold. The congealing water sword art has also entered the ranks of high-rank profoundness sword arts. Yi Chen sneered. High-grade profound martial arts varied in strength and weakness. The weak ones had 2 profounds at 90% completion, while the strong ones had both profounds at large completion. For example, the masked man's lightning fire profound was one of the more powerful high-grade profound martial arts. His lightning fire profounds were extremely close to large completion. Yi Chen had no hope against him, but against Blood Blade King, his advantage was obvious. After all, Yi Chen still had the 6-step destruction sword intent and the supreme grade Sky Scorpio sword. This kid is troublesome. Let's tie him down first. Blood Blade King changed his strategy. He alone was not Yi Chen's opponent. This kid's improvement speed was simply unimaginable. If he didn't get rid of him today, he might not be able to do so even if he paid 10 times the price in the future. Trying to stall for time. Yi Chen didn't believe that there was only one life and death king chasing after him. There were certainly more powerful ones behind. If he didn't deal with Blood Blade King as soon as possible, he would be doomed. Fine, I'll use you to test my bewitching mirror shattering. With his water profound at 90% completion, Yi Chen's space profound had also reached 50%. 50% space profound was equivalent to 150% ordinary profounds. As for its might, even Yi Chen himself wasn't clear. He only knew that it had already surpassed congealing water sword art, becoming Yi Chen's strongest move once again. Die! With a deep roar, Yi Chen's entire body leaped up like a rock spreading its wings. With a few sudden thrusts, he arrived before Blood Blade King and slashed out. Buzz! The space condensed into a mirror, embedding itself in the void. Blood Blade King's eyes were wide open, unable to move. In the next moment, the mirror condensed from space power shattered into thousands of fragments. These fragments no longer flew in all directions, but revolved around Blood Blade King's body, as if he was being executed by 1,000 cuts. Ah! Blood Blade King's body was riddled with holes. He didn't fear ordinary space power, but these spatial fragments were condensed from a large amount of compressed space power. Compressed water could even cut steel, not to mention space power. Protecting his head with all his might, his peak semi-supreme grade armor started to crack. From this, one could see how powerful the spatial fragments were. If it were an ordinary semi-supreme grade artifact, how could it possibly block them? Even so, Blood Blade King still suffered extremely frightening injuries. Life and Death Kings are indeed hard to kill, unless I can strike a vital point. Relying on sword domain, Yi Chen sealed the space around Blood Blade King, making it impossible for him to break through. Moreover, Yi Chen's speed had also reached the limit of the space. In an instant, he arrived before Blood Blade King and thrust. Congealing water sword art. Erupt. Clang. The blood blade in Blood Blade King's hand was sent flying. Sword light flickered, and Blood Blade King's head spun in the air. Puff! Yi Chen thrust again, shattering Blood Blade King's head. Go! After instantly killing Blood Blade King, Yi Chen collected Blood Blade King's blood blade and storage ring without the slightest hesitation, then immediately used his movement art and flew away. In a few breaths' time, Yi Chen had already flown 1,000 li away. Lord, not good. Blood Blade King was killed by the target, and he's escaping. He's about to escape from my perception. Several thousand li away, the captain of the blood-robed guard anxiously said to Conk. What? Blood Blade King was killed? What's going on? The masked man's face was full of disbelief. He was well aware of Blood Blade King's strength, which was at least twice as strong as his consciousness projection. Moreover, he had told the latter that if he couldn't beat the latter, he would choose to fight. Could it be that Blood Blade King was too careless? The Bloodstrike Guard captain relayed what he sensed to the masked man. Bastard! His progress is so fast. He must be eliminated. Lord is right. This kid's potential is rarely seen since ancient times. He's a huge threat. The masked man's face was gloomy. Only after hearing the captain's description did he realize how frightening Yi Chen was. This kind of progress was simply 1,000 li in a day. It should be known that ordinary people would not make any progress for several years after breaking through. Everyone, listen up. Speed up the search. The masked man ordered loudly. Chapter 896. I refuse to believe that you won't die this time. The masked man was extremely confident in his strength. He was a high-step king with 3-star battle strength. Even if Yi Chen had improved greatly, he wouldn't be able to withstand a single palm strike from him. Even if Copper Sword King, who had destroyed his consciousness projection, came over, he was confident that he could deal with him within 3 palms. The gap between 2-star and 3-star battle strength was real and not just for show. Of course, the premise was that he had to catch up to Yi Chen. If he couldn't, he wouldn't be able to do anything no matter how powerful he was. Run! To the north of Blood Sky Continent is the boundless ocean. The further you are from the continent, the less people will be able to save you. Xianhou spent 3 years comprehending Life Tao and 1 year to become a Life and Death King. No matter how talented you are, you'll still need 2 to 3 years. The masked man didn't believe that Yi Chen could break through to life and death realm in a short time. Iron Arm King, do you think this Yi Chen is so powerful? Although Blood Blade King is weaker than us, he at least had mid-2-star battle strength. How come he couldn't beat Yi Chen and was even killed? A fierce-looking man with a curly beard was conversing with another life and death king through a conch. Yi Chen is called the most frightening genius after Yuan Emperor by Lord, and it's not without reason. Even Xianhou is a bit weaker than him. Having this kind of battle strength is understandable. Moreover, think about it, he actually raised his destruction sword intent to the 6th step. How frightening is that? Beard King, you'd better not be careless if you meet him. Don't let your boat capsize in the gutter happen. Iron Arm King's arms were extremely thick, and his muscles seemed to be bursting with power. Beard King nodded, right, 6th step destruction sword intent. He hasn't entered life and death realm yet. If he enters life and death realm and develops for a few decades, he might even create a miracle and possess 7-star battle strength, comparable to the ancient people. Whether he can reach 7-star battle strength or not, I don't know. However, I'm certain that if he's allowed to grow, he'll reach 6-star battle strength for sure. Therefore, we must eliminate him to relieve Lord's worries. Iron Arm King's eyes turned cold. Of course. Beard King's eyes also turned cold. On another part of the ocean, a huge gray bird was flying at an extremely fast speed. Sometimes, it would enter the void to travel, and sometimes, it would break through space to probe with its soul power. The Lord said that whoever kills Yi Chen will be rewarded with a profoundness bead. A profoundness bead is a treasure even in the endless starry sky. It can help me comprehend profoundness faster and increase my battle prowess. This is a rare opportunity, and I can't give it to others. I have to kill Yi Chen myself. The Grey Bird was a demon king and was called the Grey Bird King. Speed had always been his advantage. As long as he received news of Yi Chen, he would immediately chase after him. This is where I first discovered Yi Chen. Alright, with my speed, I'll be able to catch up soon. Back then, Bloody Blade Monarch had been the closest to Yi Chen, followed by Grey Bird Monarch. The Masked Man and Iron Arm Monarch were the furthest. Puff! With a flap of his wings, Grey Bird King instantly disappeared. In the depths of the void, there was no limit to one's speed, unlike the outside, where one couldn't increase their speed after reaching the limit of the space. Once they did, they would have to escape into the void. In the void, life and death kings were fine, since their Jin Yuan could completely resist the pressure of the space. However, for those below life and death realm, it would be very difficult to survive in the depths of the void. Even if they could survive, their Jin Yuan would be quickly exhausted, and the rate of consumption far surpassed life and death kings. Moreover, the omnipresent spatial power in the void could shrink the distance to an inch. A life and death king could traverse several tens of thousands of li in a single breath. After flying for several million li, Grey Bird King broke through the space barrier and rushed out. Great soul-searching art. His soul power spread out in a fan shape, covering hundreds of thousands of li, a total of 14 lives. Found it. It's him. Grey Bird King's eyes blossomed with a frightening light. I've been discovered. Yi Chen could feel an extremely faint soul power scanning his body. Open. Opening the silver vertical eye on his forehead, Yi Chen turned his head. His soul eye was much more frightening than the great soul-searching art. In a straight line, it could cover 10 million li. Not only did he discover Grey Bird King, he also discovered Beard King. Grey Bird King was only a few 100,000 li away, while Beard King was 7 million li away. With the speed of life and death kings, the two were very close. Since I can't escape, I can only kill. I'll cut off that demonic beast king first, then the one behind. Grey Bird King and Beard King's aura were a bit stronger than Blood Blade King's, but not by much. Perhaps they had some trump cards, but so did Yi Chen. Ha! Die! A distance of several 100,000 li was nothing to Grey Bird King. In 10 breaths, he broke through the space barrier and blocked in front of Yi Chen. Bewitching mirror shattering. Just like how he dealt with Poison Hand King and Blood Hand King, Yi Chen took advantage of the fact that the other side didn't understand him and couldn't discover him. The space was compressed into a mirror, sealing Grey Bird King within. Pine. Poochie. 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 The mirror shattered, and the revolving spatial fragments slashed at Grey Bird King's body. Feathers and blood flew everywhere, and a conical spatial fragment even pierced through his abdomen. Grey Bird King screamed miserably, unable to raise his head. Flying feather demonic slaughter. Grey Bird King was, after all, a demonic beast king. Both his protective demonic energy and physical strength surpassed Blood Blade King's. The king-grade demonic energy within his body erupted as he used his innate ability. One after another, feathers shot out like 10,000 arrows. Each of them carried a frightening penetrative and cutting power, leaving pitch-black cracks in the space. Swish! As he threw out that sword attack, Yi Chen had already performed his sword steps, which allowed him to barely avoid the countless flying feather attacks. After a few flickers, Yi Chen arrived at Grey Bird King's left side and used congealing water. Grey Bird King raised his tattered left wing and welcomed the attack. Boom! With an explosion, Yi Chen was sent flying with blood flowing from his perlicue and his arm feeling numb. Grey Bird King didn't have it any better. The power of congealing water was transmitted as the core, and his left wing was pierced by the extremely condensed sword energy, injuring his internal organs. Damn it! Grey Bird King already knew that Yi Chen was powerful, but he was confident that he could suppress Yi Chen and slowly grind the latter to death with his dense demonic energy. However, he didn't expect that because of one wrong move, he would be forced to passively counterattack. How could he be a match for Yi Chen? I'll let you be arrogant for a while. With your strength, you can't injure me and make me lose my combat strength. As long as I can endure this period, I will be able to counterattack. Grey Bird King calmed down and circulated his undying body to heal his injured body. Seeing that Grey Bird King wasn't in a hurry to counterattack, Yi Chen knew what the latter was planning. The vertical eye on his forehead opened once more and shot out a thin silver beam of light at Grey Bird King. I've long been prepared for this move of yours. Grey Bird King knew from the masked man that Yi Chen's soul attack was extremely powerful. Moreover, his soul defense was also very strong. Therefore, he immediately reacted and used a soul defense secret art. However, he had underestimated the lethality of soul light. Even with the soul defense secret art protecting his soul C, he still felt dizzy for a moment and lost control of his body. Demonic beasts had always been inferior to humans in terms of soul. If it was a human king using a soul defense secret art, Yi Chen wouldn't be able to do anything. Kill! With the soul light taking effect, Yi Chen charged over. On the Sky Scorpio sword, purple crystals covered its body. This was the sign of overloading the crystal's power. Pine! A rain of light sprinkled down as a huge hole appeared on Grey Bird King's chest. It was a wound that even Limb Regrowth Realm couldn't repair. With one sword, Grey Bird King was gravely injured. This sword, how can it be so powerful? Spurting out mouthfuls of blood, Grey Bird King stared at the Sky Scorpio sword in Yi Chen's hand in horror. His protective demonic energy couldn't do much against this sword, shattering like a crystal. Run! Grey Bird King had never imagined that Yi Chen still had so many undiscovered secrets, such as a soul power comparable to king-grade soul power and a supreme-grade artifact sword with explosive power. These two secrets were simply asking for his life. With a flap of his wings, Grey Bird King fled in a sorry state, leaving behind a rain of blood. Take another sword of mine. Yi Chen had also underestimated Grey Bird King's strength. He didn't think that he could keep Grey Bird King here, but making the latter lose most of his fighting strength was already his goal. Raising the Sky Scorpio sword, a purple sword light chased after Grey Bird King. Pucci. With his injuries, Grey Bird King's speed was clearly not as fast as usual. Adding the suppression of the sword domain, his speed was even slower, and the purple sword light slashed at his back. With a stagger, Grey Bird King miserably fled into the void. Merak Hammer Strike. The moment Grey Bird King fled into the void, a revolving hammer light tore through the air. The one who attacked was a burly man with a curly beard, his face filled with killing intent. A little troublesome. Yi Chen raised the Sky Scorpio sword horizontally, blocking the hammer light. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere as Yi Chen was sent flying, spurting out a mouthful of blood. In fact, his battle strength was slightly weaker than Grey Bird King's. The reason why Grey Bird King fled miserably was because he didn't expect that Yi Chen would discover him first. Thus, he was caught unprepared and underestimated the power of the soul light, causing him to be stunned. Of course, the Sky Scorpio sword's contribution couldn't go unnoticed. Now, Beard King was attacking from the front, and Yi Chen had lost his advantage against Grey Bird King. Just as so. Beard King was overjoyed. He thought that Yi Chen had 3 heads and 6 arms, but now, it seemed that it wasn't that exaggerated. Power Hammer Strike. Holding the pitch-black sledgehammer with both hands, Beard King roared and sent another hammer strike at Yi Chen. The revolving hammer light covered the sky, blocking any path of escape for Yi Chen. Demonic Feather Strike. The most dangerous thing was that Grey Bird King didn't leave. Seeing that Beard King was suppressing Yi Chen, he rushed out and unleashed his innate ability at Yi Chen. Countless feathers also shot toward Yi Chen from all directions. Chapter 897. The two kings used their full strength to seal off any path of retreat for Yi Chen. Apart from forcefully blocking, there was no other way out. However, doing so would cripple him even if he didn't die. Die. Grey Bird King's injuries were very serious. After releasing this attack, his wound had been torn open, causing him to spurt out a huge mouthful of blood. However, compared to killing Yi Chen, this bit of injury wasn't much. I didn't think I'd have to use the Dragon Ball so soon. Facing the powerful attacks of Beard King and Grey Bird King, a golden Dragon Ball appeared in Yi Chen's left hand. He raised it high above his head, and the golden Dragon Ball emitted a dazzling radiance of supremacy. It was as if a small sun had descended in Yi Chen's hand. Roar! A resounding dragon roar shook the heaven and earth as the silhouette of a golden dragon shot out from the Dragon Ball and circled around Yi Chen's body. Crack! 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 Beard King's hammer light and Grey Bird King's feathers were shattered one after another, unable to advance an inch further. What is this? Beard King was enraged. The pitch-black hammer in his hand swept out vertically, and in the blink of an eye, several hundred revolving hammer lights were shot out. However, this wasn't the end. After several hundred hammer lights, he leaped into the air and smashed the hammer down on Yi Chen's head. This hammer strike contained extreme power, exploding like a collapsing star. Ping! 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 The golden dragon silhouette was extremely powerful. Before Beard King's hammer lights could approach, they were swept away by the golden light. When Beard King's final attack landed, the golden dragon silhouette spiraled into the sky with Yi Chen at the center. The towering dragon horns on its head easily shattered Beard King's explosive hammer lights and sent the latter flying away. Wah! 2 holes appeared on Beard King's abdomen, almost shattering his spine. Although the golden dragon silhouette was illusory, the power it emitted was extremely solid and ferocious. In an instant, Beard King's mouth and nose spurted out blood mixed with golden light. His face was deathly pale as he stared at the golden dragon silhouette in disbelief, not daring to make another move. The energy of the Dragon Balls is limited. They still need to be used to sense the existence of the arcane realm. Yi Chen didn't dare to wantonly use the Dragon Pearl's energy. The energy inside wasn't ordinary, but genuine giant dragon energy. It was even purer than Su Jing's incomplete giant dragon energy. However, Yi Chen couldn't control the giant dragon energy to launch long-range attacks. Otherwise, he wouldn't have minded using it to kill Grey Bird King and Beard King. Go! With the golden dragon image protecting him, Yi Chen tore through space and entered the void. Not good, he's running away. Grey Bird King's injuries were too heavy, so he didn't dare to approach Yi Chen. Seeing Yi Chen break through space, he couldn't help but scream. Can he outrun us in the void? Beard King sneered and also disappeared into the void. In the void filled with spatial power, Grey Bird King and Beard King chased after Yi Chen from the left and right, not giving him a chance to escape. As long as the golden dragon image's energy was exhausted, or when the masked man arrived, he wouldn't be able to escape death. However, a shocking scene occurred. With the golden dragon image protecting him, Yi Chen's speed was inconceivably fast. In just a blink of an eye, he had already traversed 60 to 70,000 li. He was much faster than them. Damn it, where do you think you're going? Beard King was anxious. The pitch-black hammer in his hand flew out, turning into a streak of light as it smashed towards Yi Chen. At this moment, he would rather give up his weapon than give Yi Chen a chance to escape. Silver Feather Rend. Grey Bird King also didn't want Yi Chen to escape. The few silver feathers on the back of his neck stood up and flew out at a speed even faster than Beard King's hammer. Puff! The golden dragon image was formed from dragon energy. How could they break through it? Apart from a slight sway, Yi Chen's speed increased instead of decreasing. After a while, the two finally lost track of Yi Chen. Damn it! Beard King stopped with an ashen face. This kid is not only powerful, but he also has many treasures. Killing him is easier said than done. Grey Bird King's body rolled and turned back into his human form. A bloody hole had appeared on his chest, and blood was slowly flowing out. The surface of the bloody hole was covered with strands of purple crystals, making it difficult for his injury to heal. We can't kill him, but pursuing Thunder King can. He's only 10 million li away from us now. Beard King's injuries weren't light either. The two bloody holes on his abdomen were dyed with a layer of golden light. If it wasn't for his undying body reaching the late stage of broken limb regrowth, this strike would have made him lose 90% of his combat power. My injuries are too heavy. If I don't treat them, it might affect my future cultivation base. You go first. I'll wait for pursuing Thunder King here. Grey Bird King had already given up on killing Yi Chen. With Yi Chen's strength and treasures, he would be the one to die in a one-on-one battle. Alright. Beard King also knew that Grey Bird King's injuries were severe. After adjusting his breathing, his figure flickered and shot off. He didn't believe that Yi Chen could maintain such high speed. Only after consuming half of his dragon energy did Yi Chen stop. At this moment, he was already hundreds of millions of li away from Blood Sky Continent. Running away is not the way. I have to enter life and death realm as soon as possible. The dragon energy wasn't under Yi Chen's control. After activating the golden dragon ball, it could only protect his body or attack the approaching enemies. Moreover, Yi Chen didn't dare to use the remaining half of the dragon energy. This was an important tool for finding the secret realm of Dragon God's Celestial Palace and opening it. Every bit of dragon energy he used meant a bit less. I've already sensed the similarities between Death Dao and Life Dao. Let's continue. Finding a small island with lush vegetation, Yi Chen released Dream-Eating Wolf and wholeheartedly tried to verify Life and Death Dao. Roar! Dream-Eating Wolf roared and crouched down. Not being able to help his master deal with the enemy left Dream-Eating Wolf very unwilling. He wanted to increase his realm and reach the peak of the third layer as soon as possible. This way, Even mid-step kings would be affected by his dreamland ability. If he could become a beast king, he would be able to fight shoulder to shoulder with Yi Chen and deal with any enemy. Life and death, neither life nor death. Yi Chen made life and death chi collide with each other from time to time. At times, they would collide slowly, and at other times, they would collide at high speed. Gradually, the aftershocks produced by the collision produced a gray spherical chi cover. Inside the chi cover, life and death chi intertwined. Taiji. Yi Chen's eyes brightened. To comprehend life and death, one only needed to find the connection between Death Dao and Life Dao, and then link them together. There was no need to comprehend them thoroughly, because it was impossible to comprehend them. At this moment, Yi Chen finally grasped the similarities between life and death. The mutual entanglement and pursuit of life and death formed a taiji, allowing him to see the veins. Good. In 3 to 5 days, I'll be able to reach life and death realm in 10 to 15 days. If it was before, the gate of life and death realm was vague to him, seemingly close but actually very far away. But now, the gate of life and death realm had turned from illusory to tangible. He could see and touch it, and it was incomparably clear. All he needed was a bit of force to open the gate. Just as Yi Chen was about to succeed in verifying life and death, Beard King was still chasing after Yi Chen's traces. Behind him, the masked man was also catching up. As for the blood-robed guards, they were already useless. Yi Chen's speed was too fast. By the time they caught up, who knew how long it would take? Of course, there was also the possibility that Yi Chen would turn around midway and escape to their rear. However, this possibility was very small. Once he was surrounded, he wouldn't even be able to escape. Beard King, Iron Arm King, Grey Bird King, and me, the 4 of us will split up. We'll definitely find him again. The masked man had already learned about Yi Chen from Grey Bird King. He didn't believe that Yi Chen could control the golden dragon image without limit, so he must have escaped to the front and hidden himself. That golden dragon silhouette must be some sort of treasure. However, it's still not enough to stop me. Once I kill him, that treasure will be mine. Increasing his speed, the masked man rapidly teleported in the void. Master is about to succeed. Roar. Dream-Eating Wolf's recent progress was not small. His realm had actually broken through from the first layer to the second layer. This was all thanks to Yi Chen's verification. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to break through so easily. Once Master breaks through, I should be able to openly appear in the outside world. Dream-Eating Wolf also knew that he was a rare commodity. If his master's strength was not enough, others would definitely come to fight for him. He was fed up with changing masters, so he hoped that his master would be as powerful as possible. Moreover, he could feel that Yi Chen was a world-shaking genius. Following him, his glory would be limitless. Perhaps one day, he would also be remembered by the later generations. He, Dream-Eating Wolf, had once followed a peerless expert and fought for countless years, becoming unparalleled under the heavens. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The life and death aura on Yi Chen's body had become increasingly powerful. Later on, it gradually blended together and became indistinguishable. In the surroundings of Yi Chen, the plants would wither and grow rapidly from time to time, similar to the scene in the life and death secret realm. On this day, Dream-Eating Wolf's ears twitched, and he suddenly stood up. Enemy. Dream-Eating Wolf was proficient in dream power, and his soul power was also extremely powerful. He could feel the space above the island rippling, and a powerful aura suddenly appeared. Let's see where you can run this time. The masked man broke through the space and appeared in Dream-Eating Wolf's sight. Awoo! Dream-Eating Wolf roared, and the red fur on his body stood up. This was a sign of extreme danger, and the feeling the masked man gave him was incomparably frightening. All eyes opened, and Dream-Eating Wolf used his dream power, which spread toward the masked man. Overestimating yourself. The masked man completely ignored Dream-Eating Wolf's dream power, and easily broke through it, reaching out to grab Dream-Eating Wolf. Right at this moment, the sky suddenly darkened, and an incomparably huge black hole appeared in the sky. Inside the black hole, boundless energy was compressed together, crazily revolving, and eventually forming a super-energy whirlpool. From the whirlpool, a black storm poured down. This is life and death calamity. The masked man turned pale with fright. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.